Now, they've done an analysis on the Biden tax plan here, this Build Back Better plan, and discovered that roughly 20 to 30% of middle-class families will in fact be paying more taxes in 2022 than they are in 2021, right? It's exactly the opposite of what he says, right? But here's the deal, it gets worse. How you handle your personal finances starting today over the next several years will decide potentially what the rest of your life looks like. Now, I'm not fear-mongering here. I'm simply stating facts. I am not one that believes the world is going to collapse. I don't believe the United States dollar is going to go to zero. I'm not going that direction. But I do believe in the cycles of the market. And I do believe that everyone has to deal with the fact that the inflation and the tax issues that we're going to have to navigate over the next several years are extremely real. And hey, what's going on, cash flow hackers? It is Chris with Life 180. And for this video, I want to talk to you about the Build Back Better tax program and ultimately Joe Biden touting the fact that this Build Back Better plan is not going to increase taxes on the middle and lower income families of this country, but only target and impact households earning more than $400,000 a year. So basically what he said is that this Build Back Better tax program is only going to target the top 2 to 3% income earners in the entire country. So herein lies the problem. The Tax Policy Center, which is a nonpartisan organization, first of all, right? So it's important to understand, but more importantly, it's a left-leaning nonpartisan organization, meaning that they swing Democrat and they kind of typically side with the Democratic programs. So this is just another thing against Joe here. Now, they've done an analysis on the Biden tax plan here, this Build Back Better plan, and discovered that roughly 20 to 30% of middle-class families will in fact be paying more taxes in 2022 than they are in 2021, right? It's exactly the opposite of what he says, right? But here's the deal, it gets worse. Beginning in 2023, the thing that they've been doing because of COVID, when that started, they implemented this child tax credit payment that they were given. The expansion of the child tax credit payments starting in 2023 are going to end. And that is going to just really hurt middle income families that have kids, because I know a lot of people are relying on that. I've spoken to a lot of people. And so one of the other things that I found as I was reading through this bill that I thought was really, really funny and reading stuff on this is that they actually tucked in a cigarette tax, right? They tucked away a nicotine tax. Now, I've never smoked a cigarette in my life. I'm a health, very health conscious person, if not a health freak, right? What I think to be true, and I don't have statistics. I didn't go spend a lot of time researching this, but my guess is that a higher percentage of lower income earners are smokers than upper income earners, right? And what I know to be true is that if you're smoking in the lower income bracket, a much higher percentage of your disposable income is going towards your cigs than if you were making a lot of money, right? So it's going to have a much more negative impact on the lower or middle class, right? So the other thing I want to do is show this image because a picture says 1,000 words. Now, the Tax Policy Center predicts that the bottom 20% of Americans are actually going to have their taxes increase by 4%. That's the opposite, once again, right? Now, the 21 to 40 percentile are going to see a 2% increase in their taxes paid. If you look at the bar there, that's what that means. Meanwhile, look to the other side of this, right? The top 20% of Americans, the top 20% of income earners in this country, households, are going to see a marginal reduction in their tax liability. So their taxes are going to go down a little bit. Now, this is where it gets completely insane to me because it's the opposite of everything Joe has been saying, right? It's like complete opposite. When you look at the top 1% and the top 0.1% of Americans, their tax liabilities actually drop by 2% for the 1% and 6% tax liability drop for the top 0.1% of Americans. Those are the people who, are really getting targeted and said aren't paying their fair share. They're actually going to get a bigger tax reduction than they had before. So listen, I am not against those who are actually producing in this country, making this country better, increasing the quality of all these people's lives. I'm not against those people getting lower taxes. In fact, I'm all for it. I'm a raging capitalist. But what I have a problem with is a lack of transparency. I have a problem with the fact that we're dealing with a massive lack of transparency from the leadership in our government right now. Like how they're handling the medical stuff going on in this world. Now, I'm not going to get into my opinion about all that. I'm too worried about my channel getting deplatformed. I'm not going to go into how I feel about all that. How they're lying to you about inflation. Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Fed, has just stated in their meeting, their most recent meeting, that they're going to retire the word transitory because, inflation is no longer transitory. That means we have a real problem. And the reality is that word should have never existed because inflation was never transitory.
So I think the word transitory has different meanings to different people. To many, it carries a sense of short-lived. We tend to use it to mean that it won't leave a permanent mark in the form of higher inflation. I think it's probably a good time to retire that word and try to explain more clearly what we mean.
How they're manipulating you with this tax situation right now is just an extension of what they've been doing. So the bottom line is you can't trust the government anymore. Now, here's what my perspective is. We're dealing with $30 trillion in debt almost. We have $22 trillion of unfunded Social Security, the greatest Ponzi scheme to ever grace this great earth, right? We have another $165 trillion of unfunded liabilities like Medicare and stuff like that. We've taken on too much over the past 55, 60 years, and taken on too much liability, and we've kicked the can down the road. We haven't dealt with it, right? We've outsourced our lifestyle to other countries who have financed it. We've printed money. The bottom line is like taxes need to go up. Our country is going $2 trillion more into debt every single year. And then COVID happens, right? And so what's the government's response when they should have contracted, when people weren't working, when people weren't spending? I get certain people needed protection, but the bottom line is they went out and they printed $10 trillion almost in money, which is only compounding the problem. And what that has done is it's taken the concerns, and we've had a real inflation kind of concern for several years now, but this amplified that concern, and it made the inflation problem that we have extremely real and extremely relevant, and it made it now. It made it current news. It made it a current problem, and the reality is it's likely to continue and get worse over the next several years. It's just going to. So I implore you to listen to what I'm about to say, and I mean this. How you handle your personal finances starting today over the next several years will decide potentially what the rest of your life looks like. Now, I'm not fear-mongering here. I'm simply stating facts. I am not one that believes the world is going to collapse. I don't believe the United States dollar is going to go to zero. I'm not going that direction. But I do believe in the cycles of the market. And I do believe that everyone has to deal with the fact that the inflation and the tax issues that we're going to have to navigate over the next several years are extremely real, and how you navigate them will have a drastic impact in your life. How you position your money will either leave you exposed to losing both your purchasing power due to inflation and paying more in taxes, or worse, potentially both, right? Now, if that's something that you're worried about, I hope you're subscribed to this channel, and I hope you've clicked that button. That way you get notified every time we launch a new video, because I've got a ton of content coming out on exactly what each and every person can do to position themselves to not just survive, but thrive in opportunity during the next downward cycle in the US economy. Because like I said, I'm not a doomsday person. I'm not saying our country is going to collapse, but I do think the next down cycle that we're going to have is going to be the worst down cycle that we've ever seen and probably will ever see during our lives while we're here for the rest of our lives, right? I mean, I think that's really important. So that means what you do will either prepare you, right? Or you're going to get crushed for it. If you get prepared, you're going to be prepared for the biggest windfall opportunity that you're ever going to imagine. And the reality is that's how people get rich. Go back to 2007, 8, 9. The people who got crushed, there, and then in 2009, more people got rich in 2009 than ever before. It's because when you're prepared for this, if you prepare for these cycles, these downward cycles, it's not the end of the world. Warren Buffett always says, make money when there's blood in the streets, right? So prepare for it. And when you do that, you're gonna see that the dollars that you do have are going to take you further. The leverage, the assets that you're going to be able to take advantage of and acquire and all that stuff, it will change your life, and it will set you up for the next upswing to take advantage of assets that will protect you for inflation, that will go up in value, potentially create cash flow, and just ultimately set you up to live a life like you probably could never imagine. So if you haven't already, I would love it if you shared this video, smash that like button, get this video out there to as many people as possible. I hope you've subscribed and hit the bell. That way you get notified every time I launch a new video, because I'm telling you, this is an extremely important issue. If you have any questions at all, leave them in the comment section below. I do my absolute best to engage with every single comment I possibly can. If you want to talk to somebody, there's a link below in the description to talk to somebody on the Life 180 team. And until next time, I hope you have a blessed, inspirational day. Go out and crush it, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care.